Regional at Charles Koch Arena from July 19th to the 25th. Don't miss the best summer basketball event Kansas has to offer. Get your tickets now at thetournament.com/tickets.
Mazarise Jewelry,
stream.
family-owned store for 4 generations, is having their annual watch rebate all month long. Buy a new watch and receive a rebate to use on another item in store. Some exclusions apply.
All right.
You can also trade
Mics are going.
seconds.
loved watch.
Yeah,
30
Great
seconds.
brands like Omega, Breitling, Carl Boucherer, and more. Mazarise also services all brands of watches. Check them out online at mazzjewelry.com. Mazarise Jewelry in Leawood at the southwest corner of 135th and Row.
America's largest all-sports radio station presents the #1 motorsports show for over 2 decades, Track Talk, brought to you by Rod End Supply and the Power Ride Midwest Lightning Sprints. Here are the racing boys, Scott Traylor and Kirk Elliott.
All right, welcome everybody to Track Talk here on Sports Radio 18 WHB. I'm Scott Traylor. I'm in Eldora. Kirk Elliott back in the studio with Todd Surprise. And we've got a lot going on today, folks. We've got a lot of sound. Logan Seavey, who picked up the $1 million this last Thursday night. Man, it was a great race.
Logan Schuhart.
Logan Seavey, right?
Logan Schuhart.
Schuhart. There you go.
Logan Seavey won last night, by the Logan Seavey did win a race last night.
He did.
And a midget at Fairbury, Nebraska. So we'll call that out right off the bat.
The 1S car, Logan Schuhart picked up the win. He beat Carson Macedo and Brad Sweet, David Gravel, Rico Abreu, who a lot of people thought Rico Abreu was going to win that race. Brian Brown ended up running 6th that night, and it was a great night of action, wasn't it, Kurt?
It was. And, boy, that was quite an event. I left after Thursday night's event. You stuck around for a pretty good show last night we'll get into. The Carson Macedo did end up winning last night. But, man, what a night for Logan Schuhart. Shark Racing, $1 million. That was some kind of show, wasn't it?
It was. And, I had a chance to talk to Brad Sweet a little bit after the race. And, I don't know what you think about this, Kirk, but I'm going to bring it up to you anyway. How often should they run this race? Brad Sweet and I and Michael Rigsby, we were talking, and we think about every 5 years they need to run this $1 million race. What do you think about that?
I'm thinking once every 10 years. How about that? I don't think that.
No, that's too far. That's too long. We don't want to wait 10 years to have another $1 million race.
Well, I think it's
so.
Up to Tony Stewart. If he wants to do it every 5 years, it's his money. Why not? I'm all for it. But, yeah, I agree with you. It doesn't need to happen every year. You don't want this to happen every year because it would take the special aspect out of it. So,
hey, Logan Schuhart was pretty pumped up after that win, wasn't he, Kirk?
He was. You want to hear from him right away? We talked to him after the race on Thursday night, and, boy, he couldn't stop talking. Here is the $1 million winner from Eldora Speedway.
Yesterday that I like starting on the outside at Eldora, but I also didn't want to give Carson the chance, if he beat me on the start, to be able to drive up in front of me going into 1. So I felt like even if I didn't get the greatest start on the bottom, as long as I was halfway to the side of his car, I could drive across in front of him going into 1. So that's why my decision was what it was. I went about it a little bit differently the second time. I tried to keep my pace up a little bit. The first time I set a slower pace. I was feeling pretty confident in the way the car was taking off all week. Yesterday and today I felt like I was winning almost every start. And when we could get on the gas at the same time as the car next to me, I felt like I was winning every time. So Lonnie, Brendan, Michael Newman have done a fantastic job of getting our engines to take off. My grandfather, he goes night and day on engines and trying to get them to run the best they can. But Carson just beat me that one time. We took off the same time, and Phil's a great crew chief, so he's getting his stuff to take off very well. So the next time I had a shot at it, I just felt like I was going to take a little bit faster pace, and it was going to make it a lot harder for Carson to get to my right front to kind of get in front of me going down the straightaway.
You had a lot of things to think about heading into the night with the heat races. What were you thinking coming in to the night, knowing you had to do well in the heat race?
I felt like our heat race was going to be one of the biggest challenges. Jacob and I said after the heat race, we felt like a huge weight was lifted off of our shoulders after the heat race. I felt like Rico and Ricky Warner were probably, if not I felt like we were probably the fastest car when things were right, but Rico was right. Rico and Ricky were right there. So I felt like the two fastest cars were starting next to each other in the heat race. So I knew that was going to be tough. I had to get out in the lead and make something happen, just like the start of this A-main.
And then the all-important draw to put you right there on the pole.
Yeah, that helped a little bit too.
Did you sleep at all last night?
I haven't slept in 3 days. Dude, I especially yesterday, knowing that we have a chance at this, as it gets closer, just thinking about my car, kind of, I have a lot, like Brad and some other drivers that are out here, just have a lot to do with how the car's set up, and I feel like my mind's been going 100 mile an hour, and I didn't sleep at all last night, just trying to think about how we could be better, how we slipped up. And I know my team's been doing the same thing. They all want to be the best that they can at their job and their responsibilities. And I wouldn't trade my team for anybody in the pit area. I made sure I didn't look at the scoreboard. I didn't want to know how many laps were left. And it wasn't until the white flag that I really knew that, that there's only one lap to go. So I tried to just run smooth, consistent laps. I knew where I wanted to run on the racetrack, and I knew if I hit my marks, it was going to be hard for anybody to run me down and pass me, especially in traffic. So just needed to get by the lap cars when I needed to, and crossing that finish line, I don't know, man. I just say the emotions started rolling right away. Almost thought about taking an extra lap if it wasn't for knowing I had to get to the scales just to get myself together. So, but it all came right back out when I see my family, friends, sponsors, all our supporters there in Victory Lane. It's just an amazing feeling that I have right now. I can't even fathom what that type of money looks like. I don't think until I see it in my bank account. I'm looking at Tyler trying, you sure that's right? But no, it's just wild that a sprint car race, racing on dirt can pay $1 million to win. It's just amazing that, Eldora Speedway, Tony Stewart, his crew, all the fans that come out and support this event, the Kings Row every year, the historical big one, that come to all these events throughout the year, streaming services, everything that makes it this possible. Big thank you from the bottom of my heart to be able to have the chance at this, and then my team to put me in a position. Like I said, Lonnie, Brendan, Kyle, CJ, Bill standing here, they do a ton of work trying to make sure we're prepared. And my grandfather at 80 years old, and he's going to yell at me for saying that because he's not quite 80 yet, but he night and day trying to make sure that we have the best we can. And we had like I said, our engine builder here this weekend. Almost a one-man band in the shop, but he's just works his butt off to make sure that we got the best that we have, and I can't thank my team enough.
And that grandfather he's talking about is Bobby Allen. He won the 1990 Knoxville Nationals, and I think he won a National Open one time too. So pretty famous grandfather there. Shark Racing and Logan Schuchart, big night. Scott, you're talking about choosing the inside. He started on the pole, but choosing the inside on that choose rule that they had was pretty beneficial to him.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And just so you know, on Monday, we have Logan Schuchart scheduled to be on Mostly Motorsports on Monday. We've got confirmation on that, didn't we, Kurt?
We did. So we'll look forward to talking in depth about that historic night at Eldora Speedway.
Right, no doubt about it. And Carson Macedo and Brad Sweet, they ended up running second and third. You got a little sound from them as well, Kurt?
I do. I've got Carson Macedo. Man, what a week he's had, Scott. He won at Wilmot last Saturday night. He finished second in one of the twin preliminary features on Wednesday night.
And he won last night.
Second on Thursday night, and then a win last night. I mean, that's pretty incredible. No worse than second in his last 4 races for Carson Macedo. So, but the sound that I have here is after last night's win. He won the night before the Kings Royal feature last night. And here is Carson Macedo following his feature victory last night.
I think the track was pretty fast. The pace was quick up there. I had a lot of fun in that race there. That was as hard as I could go at the end. These races, whether they pay $1 million or $20,000, I feel like they're just as hard to win either way. That was a 30-lap dash, just like we had last night after the break. And man, just thankful for all my family being here. It's pretty special. My girlfriend Holly, it's a cool week, and happy to be standing up here in victory lane. Well, I'd slid myself in 3 and 4. I knew I lost a lot of time off of 4, but I didn't think he would slide me right then. I felt like my run off of 4 wasn't that bad. He must have been fairly close before that. I was looking up at the board. I could see the laps winding down, and he slid me and just woke me back up. I didn't realize how uniform you could run the fence, and once he drove by me, I kind of grabbed another gear, put my elbows way up in the seat, and just started running as hard as I possibly could. And I could just leave my right front plugged into it all the way through 1 and 2, and it just would never lose any speed. So I feel like I was making incredible laps after that. I don't know what the gap ended up being, but man, hats off to this All Ball 41 team. Thank you to Dennis Allball for coming on board and supporting this team. Tarleton and Son, Complete Parts and Equipment, Maxim Chassis, Factory Cane Shocks, Kistler Engines, Liquid Trucking, High Performance Lubricants, the Sage family, Bolts family, Myers Constructors, Tiger Towing. Man, it's a group effort. Mesilla Valley Transportation, Royal Jones. Wish he could be here with us this week. He's a huge supporter of sprint car racing. We're thankful for him. But
but the guy he had to fend off was Brad Sweet. After he grabbed the lead from him, Sweet didn't give up. He got in front of him there at one point, did he not, Scott? In that feature event before Carson was able to get back by him.
Late in the race, he got a little bit ahead of him and kind of pulled the lead there just for a second, but Carson Macedo got back around him. I think the biggest surprise of the weekend, Kirk, is the performance of Rico Abreu, because I think everybody thought that Rico was going to be the guy to beat this weekend. Would you agree with that?
I did. I mean, it didn't like he ran poorly. He just didn't run at the level of some of the other guys. But he was right there.
He ran fourth last night.
Yeah. I mean,
and David Gravel ended up running in the top 5 as well. Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I thought you picked Rico to win the $1 million race a little bit earlier. So, no, he was he still had a fast race car. He won one of the preliminary races on Wednesday night, so you knew he was going to be pretty strong. And, boy, you run as well as Rico has and has those kind of finishes that he's had. I think he's gotten something like 29 top 10 finishes in 38 races this year. I think his top 3 podium finishes, I think he's got like 18 or 19 top 3 finishes in 38 starts. I mean, that's pretty incredible consistency that Rico has had.
Right. Blackjack Brian Brown, he started 11th. He ended up running 12th last night. Our local sprint car driver from Grain Valley. He's not had a really great weekend this weekend, really, to be honest with you. I think on the $1 million race, I think he ended up running
sixth.
I
thought he did pretty well during the 2 nights of the $1 million race. I mean, he was definitely a factor in that event.
Hey, here's one thing, Kirk. I don't know if people know this or not. That race paid $1 million to win, right?
Yeah.
You know what it paid for 5th place?
What did it pay for 5th? I know it was $100 for 2nd and $50 for 3rd, right?
$15,000.
15, but $6,000 to start, which not too bad.
Brian Brown told me yesterday he got $12,500 for 6th. That's quite a drop off from $1 million, $100,000, $50,000, and then it goes to $15,000. Isn't that a little bit of a drop off?
Well, it is, but there is going to be a drop off when you pay $1 million to win. I mean, it was like $90,000, $900,000 between 1st and 2nd. So, I mean, still $100,000 is a hell of a payday. What the total payout was $1.4 million total payout for that feature event.
Yeah, but the problem is, Kirk, it pays $15,000 for fifth.
Well, that's still pretty good. How many races pay 15 for fifth?
That's not good enough. I'm going to say it right here.
You're
on the
complaining
show.
about a $1.4 million purse.
Listen, I'm going to tell you something, Kirk. Listen, you can't pay $1 million, pay $100,000 for second, $50,000 for third, and fifth place pays $15,000.
Okay, let's say if it's your money, this is Tony Stewart's money. If it's your money, what would the breakdown be?
Hey, Kirk, you don't know that that's Tony Stewart's money.
Well, he's responsible for putting it out there.
Well, I know that, but I'm just telling you that you go from $1 million and fifth place pays $15,000.
Well, that's about what you'd expect.
No, it's not.
Well,
I would rather it pay $500,000.
Well, what would the total?
Hold on, Kirk. Let me talk. I'm just telling you, I'd rather pay $500,000 and sprinkle that rest of that $500,000 throughout the field.
And what would the total payout in your mind be? It was $1.4 million.
$500,000 to win, and spread the other $500,000 amongst the field.
That's the way you do
what
it.
I would do.
Well, then it wouldn't be called the Eldora Million. You couldn't call
that, Kirk.
$1 million to win.
But
that's what the whole thing was about.
The consensus is amongst the drivers that they wish that it would pay better back in the back half of the field. I've talked to several drivers about that.
Yeah. Well, I can understand that, but that takes away the marketing for the whole event to begin with.
Hold on a second. You just said you didn't understand that.
I understand what the drivers are saying about it. Sure, they'd like to have it spread out, but the marketing for this event, the big news of it was it was going to pay $1 million to win. That's the whole point, is that it's the Eldora Million, and it pays $1 million to win. That's the whole thing about this event.
$15,000 for fifth.
Yeah, well,
from $1 million, Kurt.
That's still
just think
$1
million to win, $15,000 for fifth.
$15,000 for fifth, still a hell of a payday, no matter what race it is.
That's what it pays to start at Knoxville.
Well, that's an every year event. In my mind, the Knoxville Nationals is still the biggest sprint car race in the world, no matter what it pays. And for this one-time event, the whole point of the race was to pay $1 million to win. That's what they marketed the event about. That's what it's all about. Yeah. So they've done it in late models twice now.
It paid $6,000 to start. It paid $6,000 to start that race.
That's pretty good. That $6,000 to start any race is really good. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But I'm just going to have to part company with you on this one, because the whole point of the race was it's $1 million to win. So
let me just tell you that through a lot of the drivers that I talked to yesterday, they would like for it to pay $500,000 and spread that rest of that $500,000 out through the field.
Well, yeah,
there's a lot of drivers are thinking like that right now,
especially
Kirk.
After the fact, after the race is over and they didn't win that $1 million they'd be for that.
Hey, Kirk, here's the problem. A lot of these people that are racing, and I'll just say it, Blake Hahn, maybe one of these guys. If he makes $1,500 this week, it'd be a miracle.
Mm-hmm.
So you come in here, you have to buy all the tires from the racetrack, and you got to spend $90 for a pit pass.
Well, yeah, that's the way it is.
$90, Kurt.
He's paying out $2 million for the 4 days. $2 million total payout. That's a lot of money, man.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't get all the complaining. How many other promoters are putting up this kind of dough? Not many. I'm all for it. Whatever Tony Stewart's doing here, I'm all for what he's done. This is a situation this week at a racetrack that not many people have the ability to do, and he's done it. $2 million total payout for 4 days. That's a lot of money.
I hear you. $15,000 for fifth.
Most races don't pay $15,000 to win.
Kirk, I don't think you get it.
Well, I just disagree with.
It's $1 million to win, $100,000 for second, $50,000 for third, and $15,000 for fifth.
Yeah, how many races have that kind of payout? Only one. The Eldora Million. That's the only one that has that kind of a payout. Who else can do that? Who else has done that? And 83 drivers showed up to try to make a run at it. Only one was successful. And still, Carson Macedo walked out of there with $100,000 for second, and the third place finisher, Brad Sweet, $50,000. That's pretty good for the top three.
Maurice says, bottom line, no matter what event, it's all about the money. Frog says maybe they should pay $500,000 and pay $12,000 to start.
That takes away from the whole point of the race. It's $1 million to win. Right. That's what it's all about, Scott. I hate arguing with you about this, but how many other promoters have the ability to put on an event like this? Only one.
All right.
Tony Stewart.
We need to take a break. We're going to come back with more of Track Talk right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. It's all brought to you by Rod End Supply, featuring the POWRi Midwest Lightning Sprints. They'll be racing somewhere this weekend. Kirk, you might look that up and let me know where they're going to be racing this weekend. And it's all brought to you by Rod End Supply. We'll be back with more right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Rod End Supply is involved with a variety of motorsports as well as industrial applications with many different types of products. Since 1989, Rod End Supply has provided superior products priced competitively. Whether you're racing at the circle track or drag strip, rock climbing, or going off-road, Rod End Supply has an assortment of rod ends, radius rods, and specialty products to keep your equipment moving. Rod End Supply's experienced staff is ready and willing to help you with your needs. Their promise is to continue to provide a superior product with superior service so you can stay in front of the field no matter what it is. To learn more, go to rodendsupply.com.
Paid for client portrayal and endorsement. The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely upon advertisements. Past results for no guarantee of future results, and every case is different and must be judged on its own merits.
I'm injury attorney Mike DePasquale. When I say I've got this, here's what it means for you.
It means that Mike and his team can deal with the insurance company so you don't get taken advantage of.
I've got this meant Mike's team settled my case for $150,000.
If you've been hurt in a car wreck, call me. I've got this.
Mike's got this. All you need to know. 816-888-7500.
When it comes to the old roof over your head, experience matters. Since 1992, Pyramid Roofing has delivered high-quality commercial and residential roofing services with the utmost honesty and integrity. They stay on top of industry standards and new developments, ensuring they use the right equipment and top-quality roofing materials for each unique roof installation and repair job. Whether it's your own home or your company's building, Pyramid is the only call you need to make. 816-966-1101 or pyramidroofingkc.com.
In between jobs or have free time? Find out if you qualify for a clinical research study. ICON is seeking healthy adults ages 18 to 65 for upcoming studies at our facility in Lenexa, Kansas. Volunteers must be available for in-house stays of varying lengths and outpatient visits. Qualified participants may receive compensation up to $300 per night. Call ICON at 913-210-5900 or visit us at iconstudies.com/Lenexa.
How do you know someone was speeding?
If you arrive to the scene and the car is completely destroyed, it's pretty easy to associate speed with that type of damage.
Do people survive that kind of wreckage?
If you're driving 100 miles an hour and you crash, you're going to die. If you're driving 100 miles an hour and you crash into somebody else, you're going to kill them.
Speeding is never worth it. A message from KDOT and your local law enforcement community.
B&B Theaters has great entertainment for the whole family this July with films like Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1, Oppenheimer, Barbie, Haunted Mansion, and more. B&B has exclusive theatrical amenities, incredible food and beverage options, including a full-service bar and extended made-to-order concession menu. The big screen is the best way to enjoy the magic of the movies. And B&B's luxury recliners and food and beverage options make the experience unbeatable. Tickets, showtimes, and the chance to sign up for the free Backstage Pass loyalty program all online at bbtheaters.com.
Back in 30.
Kansas City Comets cheerleaders for the upcoming indoor soccer season at Cable Dahmer Arena. If you've ever dreamed about dancing for a professional sports team, this is your opportunity. Tryouts will be held on Sunday, July 30th from 12 p.m. until 6 p.m. at Dance Fit Flow in Kansas City, Missouri. The cost is $30 and the registration deadline is July 16th. Participants must be at least 18 years old and previous dance and cheer experience is a plus. To register, go to kccomets.com/cheerleaders.
Welcome back to Track Talk here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. I'm Scott Trailer. Kirk Elliott back in the Racing Boys HQ along with Todd Surprise. It's all brought to you by Rod End Supply, featuring the POWRi Midwest Lightning Sprints. And listen, I get it. People want to see $1 million race. I understand that. I get it. They want to see somebody race for $1 million. And I'm just saying that, after I've talked to a few of the drivers yesterday, several of them said that I don't know how often they should do this, Kirk, to be honest with you. I don't know if they should do it every 5 years. What do you think? How often should they do the $1 million race?
I think
every 5 years.
No, that's once every 10 years. That's what I think.
No, I wouldn't do it. Why would you want to do that? If you're going to do it every 5 years, because 10 years is too far in between.
Well, as I said earlier, it's Tony Stewart that puts this on. If he wants to do it every 5 years, God bless him. I'm all for it. But certainly you can't do this every year, because that would take the special aspect out of it.
It would take the sensation away from it.
But I'd be okay once every 5 years or so to put something like this on. It all depends on Tony Stewart if he wants to do this again or not. Earl Baltus, the founder of Eldora Speedway, was the first guy to put up $1 million to win in 2001 for a late model race that Donnie Moran won. The next $1 million to win late model race didn't occur until
Jonathan Davenport won it
22 years later. Yeah.
Right.
Last year when Jonathan Davenport did it.
But that was too far in between.
Yeah, that's probably, I would say that's probably too far in between. But Scott, you walk in the pits yesterday. Yeah, anytime you walk through a pit area, you're going to find a lot of complainers. A lot of people just don't like something that just, I mean, this was a special event that I say congratulations. They pulled off a historic event. It was great racing. Thank you, Tony Stewart, for doing that. I don't know who else could pull that off.
I'm not going to argue with you. It was great to see Logan Schuchart pick up that $1 million. No doubt about it.
Yeah, I'm happy somebody like that won it. That's his first major win. Logan Schuchart, and it's not like he hadn't paid his dues. He almost won. I mean, he came from the back at Knoxville one time and got himself in, and I thought it was fastest car. He nearly won the Kings Royal last year. He's run strong at a lot of big races, and this is the first one. To see him and that team win that $1 million, I was happy to see it. I really didn't care who won, but I'm happy to see a team that started out small and worked their way up and see the accomplishments that he and Jacob Allen have had over the last several years when they got started. to see them walk out of there that $1 million, I thought it was terrific.
Hey, Marie says, all I know is PA was well represented. They all did an exceptional job representing us.
They did.
So the PA guys were doing pretty good, and we were right next to Bill Baylog.
Hey, I was going to ask you a little bit more about that race. There was only 3 restarts, one for that break that they came in to change fuel and fuel up and put tires on the car. But right after the restart of that 20-lap break, that big wreck when Aaron Reitzel got sideways and collected Kyle Larson and Spencer Baston, and Lockie McHugh went for a hell of a ride, and Gio Scelzi got caught up in it. That was pretty wild wreck.
That was a grinding crash. That was maybe the worst crash of the weekend in my eyes. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, that was wicked. Mm-hmm. And Kyle Larson, he was just
it was lucky that Kyle Larson didn't get hit in the driver's side, because it came very close to getting hit.
Yeah, Rick Hendricks watching that and think, oh boy, there we go again.
Yeah.
But nobody got hurt.
That was it destroyed Kyle Larson's car, Giovanni Scelzi's car, Spencer Baston's car. That was a grinding wreck right there.
But I think Lockie McHugh probably took the wildest ride. He got probably as airborne more than anybody in that 25 car.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it was a hell of a crash. But then after that, they got started. You know, with those double file restarts, you're thinking there's going to be a lot more restarts, a lot more incidents, but really that was it. They ran to the checkered flag right after that.
I know it. They ran all the way through. And, you know, I don't know if Carson Macedo or Brad Sweet had anything for Logan Schuchart, because Logan Schuchart was out in clean air. And he did an exceptional job lapping those cars. And, I don't think anybody had anything for. You know, I thought last night that Logan Schuchart was going to win. Didn't you think?
No, I just always thought Carson Macedo was going to win. Last night?
I thought that Logan Schuchart, starting on the pole last night, was going to win the race.
I thought Macedo started on the pole.
No, Macedo started second.
Well, I thought either Carson Macedo or Brad Sweet were the only guys that really had a chance to win last night's night before the Kings Royal. That's just that's my opinion. And no, Carson Macedo and Brad Sweet started side by side on the front row of last night's feature event, Scott.
That's what I said, Kirk.
Yeah. You said Logan Schuchart.
I said Logan Schuchart started on the pole. Carson Macedo started on the front row outside.
That was...
I'm looking at it right here.
You're looking at the wrong lineup. Last night, the night before the Kings Royal, Carson Macedo was on the pole and Brad Sweet started outside front row. And really, those were the only two guys I thought Kirk. Really had a chance.
I was looking at the wrong page.
Those are the only two guys I thought had a chance to win last night. And Brad Sweet got around him there one time, and but Macedo was able to hold him off. So...
Right.
But Logan Schuchart still had a fast car.
Logan Schuchart started fourth last night.
Yeah. And
Rico Abreu started fifth. Brad Sweet started Listen, how about Brad Sweet last night? Where did he start?
Started outside front row. Carson Macedo and Brad Sweet were the only two guys, Scott, that had a chance to win last night. Logan Schuchart started in 7th and ended up 11th last night, but he doesn't care. He's got that $1 million, so he'll try to go for the Kings Royal tonight. And man, that do like what Brent Marks did last year and double up the whole weekend. Remember last year Brent Marks won the historical Big One and the Kings Royal all in the same weekend. Logan Schuchart could do that again tonight. So
Carson Macedo, I'm sorry, I misspoke. I was on the wrong page. Carson Macedo did start on the pole last night.
Yeah.
Brad Sweet started second. Giovanni Scelzi was third. Rico Abreu started sixth. David Gravel. How about David Gravel coming from 15th up to 5th?
That's a pretty good run up through there.
Yeah.
He's got a shot at the Kings Royal tonight. David Gravel has not won a Kings Royal yet, but he's won a race at Eldora. The biggest race that he won was that Governor's Reign that they scheduled during the pandemic in 2020 when everything else was called off. That's really the biggest race that he's won at Eldora Speedway. And, of course, we remember here just a few weeks ago, he won the $250,000 High Bank Nationals at Houston Speedway.
Right.
So that's been his biggest win.
What was really surprising last night, Kirk, is that Logan Schuchart started 7th, and he ended up 11th.
Yeah. But again, he doesn't care. He's got the $1 million, right?
Well, yeah, he's
still got a
all
big
the money.
smile on his face.
He was pretty pumped up after that race, wasn't he, Kirk?
Oh man, that was just awesome to see him. He's a good guy anyway. He and Jacob Allen are both great guys to deal with and work with.
And again, we're going to have Logan Schuchart on the show Monday, 12 noon Central Time.
Yep.
You can listen to Kirk and I interview Logan Schuchart, and he's supposed to be on with us, right?
He is, and we can't wait to talk to him about. And it's always kind of fun, a few days after the win, just to see how it's all sunk in.
Settle down.
Yeah, sometimes when you talk to a driver right after it's happened, it's really not sunk in yet. But we'll give him 3 or 4 days and then see how he feels about it. So we'll look forward to that conversation coming up live at about 12:20 Central Time on Monday. So. And who knows, Scott, he might have a Kings Royal win to talk about as well.
Right. It could happen.
Yes.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
Hey, I got a little bit of sound from Brad Sweet after his third place finish. He finished second last night, but this is after his third place finish at the Eldora Million.
I want to thank Tony and Flo for coming together and putting on $1 million to win race. I don't want that to, I don't want to feel, come off as ungrateful for that opportunity to race for $1 million, even though we didn't win it. So there's a little disappointment on my end because obviously you come here and you bring your A game and you give it your all. We just didn't have it tonight. It was close, but running third against this group is tough as it is. But Logan was just the best car. I felt like we gotta go back to the drawing board and try to figure out how we can just be a little bit better.
And that still $50,000 for third place. That's not too shabby. So
yeah,
I'll just say that.
Yeah. Well, I could tell you that for me personally, I pitted for Blake Hahn all weekend. I tried to help him out a little bit. I wasn't much help, to be honest with you. And I thought Blackjack Brian Brown looked pretty good, didn't you?
Yeah, I think Brian Brown has had a great week. He's been a factor, and he's been relevant and been a factor all week at Eldora Speedway. And he led quite a bit of that preliminary race on the nightcap on Wednesday night. And it looked like for a while, Scott, he was going to pull off his first Eldora victory. But Rico just had a faster race car there at the end. But still,
Brown started 11th last night, ended up running 12th.
Yeah, so that not a great starting spot as the great as he had on Thursday night. But Thursday night's race, Scott, he and David Gravel were battling it out pretty well for fourth place at one time. He finished in sixth, but I thought a great week for Brian Brown to finish sixth. Was a huge factor all week long, and for him to run as well as he has at Eldora Speedway, hats off to Brian Brown, Chad Morgan, and the whole team there.
Hey, I don't know if Chris Yonch just brought this up. The 50-50 ticket on Thursday night was $101,000, Kurt.
Ah, man.
And last night it was $40,000. I bought 30 tickets.
You did.
Yeah.
But you didn't win either night.
I didn't win.
Yeah.
I had a few of the numbers, but I didn't win.
Yeah, I saw him draw that one last night. When you look in that big giant tub that they've got and see how many tickets that are in there. That's a pretty long shot to win that thing, but a couple of people walked out there with some pretty good cash.
Yeah. That might be the most I've ever seen for a 50-50 ticket, $101,000.
No doubt. And they must have a different rule for lotteries in the state of Eldora or the state of Ohio, I mean, to have that kind of a payout. I don't know how their lottery setup works. I know if somebody doesn't win a lottery, it rolls over. The money carries over somehow. I'm not exactly sure how that is, but I don't think many states, Ohio being the exception, can allow that kind of a lottery to take place. That's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money. Man, there was one happy winner when they chose that winning ticket. I don't know what the number was, but all I know is that was a $101,000. Man, somebody was really happy after winning that prize right there.
Hey,
all right.
Before we get off Eldora, I just wanted to say, man, what an atmosphere out there. 16 years since you and I were out there. We were out there for the World 100 in 2007. I was out there for the $200,000 to win Mopar Million that Jack Hodenshield won 20 years ago. So it's been too long since I've been there, but man, what an awesome atmosphere at Eldora Speedway, and I enjoyed my time out there.
Yeah. Sam says it's a statewide lottery.
It is. Okay. Mm-hmm. That explains that. I knew they had a little different situation when it comes to lotteries in the state of Ohio to allow that kind of money to take place in a lot of 50-50 drawing. That's pretty incredible.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, we're going to take another break. It's all brought to you by Rod End Supply here on Track Talk, featuring the POWRi Midwest Lightning Sprints. We'll be back with more right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Rod End Supply is involved with a variety of motorsports as well as industrial applications with many different types of products. Since 1989, Rod End Supply has provided superior products priced competitively. Whether you're racing at the circle track or drag strip, rock climbing, or going off-road, Rod End Supply has an assortment of rod ends, radius rods, and specialty products to keep.
You guys want a 3-minute warning for the music?
Needs. Their promise is to continue to provide a superior product with superior
service. Yeah, for the warning, music and a minute out. Give us a minute 30 and 10-second cue at the end of the show.
Yes, sir. Gotcha.
We've all seen them. As soon as the big storm comes through, the storm-chasing roofers show up. Don't be a victim twice. Call locally owned, veteran-owned JR & Company. No one protects your home and you like JR.
JR's there for you. You're always better with a roof from JR.
In fact, JR & Company can let you know if you even need to be worried about storm damage. Online, visit jrhailcheck.com. Plug in your address and we'll pull a storm report. If there's nothing on the report, we'll give you hassle-free peace of mind. And if it looks like you got hit, we can come out and do a free inspection and help with any insurance claim. We'll never try to sell you a roof you don't need. But if you do need a new roof,
you're always better with a roof from JR.
Go to jrhailcheck.com.
Hi there, I'm Gary Joslin, and I'm at Sports Radio 810 today, talking to my friends that have helped me find you as customers for my jewelry store. What we appreciate most is the fact that you recommend us to all your friends and family. That's how Joslin has grown. With word-of-mouth recommendations, we're up to 190,000 repairs through the front door, and we've built our reputation one jewelry repair at a time. The word is spreading. Joslin is the place to go for everything from a small jewelry repair to a once-in-a-lifetime purchase of a diamond engagement ring. At Joslin's, it's the right diamond, the right price, and the right mom-and-pop jewelry store to do business with. Come see us today, 95th in Antioch, 435 in Antioch, go north 1 mile, or JoslinsJewelry.com.
Joslin's Jewelry for the best that's yet to come.
30 seconds.
The summer heat, let ProBuilt Pool and Patio
30
get you
seconds.
started on your summer prep. As the largest provider of fiberglass swimming pools, We have the biggest selection and offer the fastest installation times. At ProBuilt Pool and Patio, we proudly stand behind every home we serve. We make dreams come true and deliver them right to your backyard. The best time to get a pool is right now. Call us today for your free quote. ProBuilt Pool and Patio, 816-786-3893, or go to ProBuiltPatio.com.
Welcome back. You're listening to the Racing Boys Track Talk every Saturday morning. Don't forget Mostly Motorsports Mondays at 12 noon live on our Facebook and YouTube pages, and we send that out as a podcast every week. We got the millionaire Logan Schuart as the guest on Monday, so make sure you tune in for that. Tonight, the Kings Royal out at Eldora Speedway. I bailed out, headed back to Kansas City after the $1 million race on Thursday night. And so drove all day yesterday to get back here, make sure everything is working here. And it's a good thing we did, Todd, because we had some power outages and some storms and all kinds of crazy stuff. So I needed to be back here in the studio to make sure everything is working.
Yeah.
And
me and you got here a little earlier than normal this morning, and just to make sure. And sure enough, we don't have – normally behind Kirk Elliott, you would see – either MAV TV or some local
TV is out.
TV's
phones are out.
We have no telephone. I can hear if you go outside.
Did we lose Scott?
Yeah, we've lost Scott. He's going to try to. We're still hooked up, but we have no Scott actually on, so we're going to try to.
So we'll get him back
between Iowa 1 and 2. But yeah, you could go outside and hear the generators, Kirk. You can hear people out there running. They're getting so there's some people still without electricity.
There was a stoplight out on the way here as I was driving up, and I thought, oh my God, we don't have any power up here.
My cousins, they're out of power. They're still out this morning. Lawrence, where my daughter is at, there's still a lot of power outages in Lawrence. So if you're listening in from Lawrence, you're probably either listening in via your telephone or your car, driving around Sports Radio 810 WHB listening. And some friend, man, my brother, he got out on the water early this morning, Kirk. He's out there fishing. So, and I think he's listening this morning.
And it's going to be a lot cooler today?
It's a little bit cooler now. Well, here's the problem. By the afternoon, I think some of the temperatures are going to start getting up, so you're going to get a little bit of that humidity because there's a lot of water in the air right now. But, boy, it looked like a war zone when you rolled into Gladstone this morning, Kirk. It was messy.
Now, we do have a couple of races around the Kansas City area tonight we want to talk about. The Diamond Nationals.
Yes, sir.
Will be at Lucas Oil Speedway tonight for the Lucas Oil Late Model Series. That's always a big event. Last night, they were at Tri-City Speedway near St. Louis, but it got rained out. They got the time trials in. They had 24 cars over there last night. Got qualifying in, and then the rest of the night got rained out. So hopefully everything is good to go down at Lucas Oil Speedway tonight for the Diamond Nationals. The Lucas Oil MLRA Late Model Series will make up that rain out that was supposed to be at I-70 Motorsports Park a couple of weeks ago tomorrow night. That race will be tomorrow night at I-70 Motorsports Park for the Lucas Oil MLRA Late Models. Also a big race tonight. Valley Speedway will host the WAR non-wing sprint cars. That's the Power I WAR non-wing sprints at Valley Speedway tonight for the Lawson Memorial Race. I think I'm about heading there tonight. It's close to home.
Pretty close to home. You'll be in good shape.
And then I'll go to I-70 tomorrow night. And also tonight, the Castor Family Celebration will be at I-35 Speedway tonight. We love the Castor family. And so they'll have their celebration tonight up at I-35 Speedway. Lakeside got rained out.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah, boy, there was no chance for Lakeside. They made the right call for sure because last night, Kirk, the winds came in. Now, if you don't know, the I-70 kind of splits us. So a lot of people, the storm kind of stayed on the other side of I-70. Now, we got a lot of the rain and winds, but we did not get near the damage that everybody else did. So Lakeside just got a lot of water down there.
You know where I'm going to be next week, Todd?
Where's that?
Iowa Speedway, the Indy cars.
Boy, I tell you what.
Going to be at Iowa Speedway for a doubleheader Saturday and Sunday of next weekend. They got some big concerts up there surrounding the races. Carrie Underwood, Kenny Chesney, the Zach Brown Band, and Ed Sheeran.
If I would have known, Kirk Elliott, that you guys were going to the IndyCar race, I would have put my name on the guest list with you guys because Zach's going to be playing baseball up in Iowa, and I had just made a trip over and watched the race. I went over and watched the race.
I probably could have made that happen.
Yeah, I'm sure you could have, because here's why I know that, because the Indy guy, when I talked to him at the Chili Bowl, he said, just tell them to put you on the list and we can get you in, whether it's St. Louis or Iowa.
I'm sorry, I didn't know that
Well,
about that sooner.
I didn't know the baseball. I didn't know Zach's baseball was going on that week. And my son's taking his ACTs this morning, Kirk Elliott, so good luck on.
He's playing in Iowa next weekend?
Yeah, I got a big I think it's next weekend or the weekend after. My wife's listening, so she's probably correcting me as she's driving.
Here's what I'm going to do. After the show next Saturday, we'll drive to Iowa Speedway for the IndyCar race.
Be a great
the
race.
Afternoon. And then we're going to go to Knoxville, watch the races there, and then drive back to Iowa Speedway on Sunday. You know, those tracks are only like 30 miles apart.
Exactly. You're pretty close right there.
So that's my plan next week.
Well, let's hope that all the rain will be out of the system by then and you can get some good racing. I hope that where Scott's, he's going to get to see some racing tonight, because it's looking some rain up there even. I think he's going to stick around up there, but boy, it's not looking good. He said it was raining already this morning.
Did we lose connection with Scott?
Yeah, and we've literally, the Zoom, I just texted him, and I have not, baseball is next weekend for them.
Yeah.
So next weekend is where we're going to be in Iowa. I won't be there. I'm not making the trip this year probably, Kirk. I'm going to stay home. But, I believe that the racing tonight, everybody should be in the clear. But when I looked on the radar, if you're having racing out there tonight locally, we should be in good shape.
So everything looks good for Lucas Oil Speedway tonight, Valley Speedway,
yes,
I-35, and I-70 tomorrow.
Man, it'll be making up races, and like you said, go out there and visit your local tracks, because they need it. You know, Kirk, I was telling you guys, I went to the races the other night at Lakeside on last Friday, and that was the funnest time I'd had out there in a long time. It wasn't about the racing. They were just being with the family and seeing so many friends at the track that I hadn't seen.
And you didn't have to drive far to get home.
Boy, I was home before even the traffic let out. So, yeah, I enjoy that very much. Hey, we've got some really good interviews coming up. We've got a Brian Brown interview we did after he won his big race. Let me tell you guys, that interview, we had Brian Brown on for almost 40 full minutes.
This was prior to his trip to Eldora
That's right.
Speedway.
He hadn't even left Kansas City yet. None of us had.
He won last Saturday night at Knoxville.
That's right.
64
Number
career
64.
wins at the Knoxville Raceway, second to his uncle Danny Lasowski.
Absolutely.
By about 48. He'd have to.
He's got to get on a run.
Scott thinks he can chase him down.
Well,
I don't think it's possible.
We talk about that in the interview, and so this interview we're going to play in hour 2 is only like 6 or 7 minutes, but it's a 35-minute, 40-minute interview. So if you want, you can go back and pull up episode 271 anywhere you find your podcasts and bring that one up. It had Chase Rodman and Trenton Berry all on there, which we're going to play all 3 of those interviews here in hour number 2.
Yeah. So
it's going to be a good hour number 2. So
it is, and of course there's a lot of racing to talk about that we haven't gotten into. Last night, Mike Marlar comes from 22nd to 1st in the World of Outlaw Late Models at Ponderosa Speedway in Kentucky last night. Logan Seavey powers to victory at Jefferson County Speedway in Fairbury, Nebraska last night, and the USAC NOS Energy Drink National Midget Series, first of 2 nights this weekend, and it looked like Ryan Timms was going to win that race last night, but lost the lead to Seavey on lap 17, and those two really battled it out towards the end of that race. Seavey was able to hang on for the victory. I thought it was a great racetrack last night out of Fairbury, Nebraska, so congratulations to Logan Seavey. And Bryant Wiedemann, a Kansas native, won on Thursday, that would be Wednesday night, at Beloit, Kansas. The race on Wednesday night.
1 minute until music.
The race on Tuesday night that was scheduled down at Red Dirt Raceway was rained out.
Man, there's been some raining in the country, Kirk. Now, I know you finally got some rain up in Iowa, but I don't know if you guys got enough rain to take care of all your crops up there. I know you're still having issues up there.
Yeah, they got about 3.5 inches of rain a couple of weeks ago. So
that helps out a lot.
That helped out a lot. Rain claimed the ASCS National A feature at Thunderbird Speedway last night. They got the whole program in except for the for the A feature, and then rains hit Thunderbird Speedway. So they'll be back in action tonight in the ASCS National Series. NHRA out at Bandimere Speedway in Denver this weekend. Matt Hagan and Antron Brown topped the Nitro qualifying last night. Erica Enders in Pro Stock were the top qualifiers on Friday night. This is the last race at Bandimere Speedway. I guess we're going to shut that racetrack down after
Man, that's
this
sad
year.
to hear
So,
that.
Yeah,
So.
another NHRA track. And I think the Bandimeres are trying to locate another area where they can build a racetrack. So they will hopefully continue to have NHRA racing in the Mile High City after Bandimere closes down. Thank you for tuning in. Scott will be joining us hour 2, we hope, exclusively on our Facebook page, YouTube, and racingboys.com. Thanks, Todd Spries, for helping us out. For Covell back at the Sports Radio 810 studios. For my partner, Scott Traylor, I'm Kirk Elliott. Join us every Saturday morning for Track Talk. NASCAR in New Hampshire this weekend. We'll be following the doings up there this weekend as well. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. We'll talk to you next Saturday morning.
Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Rod End Supply is involved with a variety of motorsports as well as industrial applications with many different types of products. Since 1989, Rod End Supply has provided superior products priced competitively. Whether you're racing at the circle track or drag strip, rock climbing, or going off-road, Rod End Supply has an assortment of rod ends, radius rods, and specialty products to keep your equipment moving. Rod End Supply's experienced staff is ready and willing to help you with your needs. Their promise is to continue to provide a superior product with superior service so you can stay in front of the field no matter what it is. To learn more, go to rodendsupply.com.
Hey Kansas City, it's Justin Reed, safety for your Kansas City Chiefs. As you know, it was a great first year here in Kansas City. And that's right, the whole time I was driving my F-150 from Victory Ford.
Come in today and check out our great selection of F-150s and experience the Victory Ford difference.
Brian Pringle and his team at Victory Ford are not only a world-class dealership,
Rod End Supply is involved with a variety of motorsports as well as industrial applications with many different types of products. Since 1989, Rod End Supply has provided superior products priced competitively. Whether you're racing at the circle track or drag strip, rock climbing, or going off-road, Rod End Supply has an assortment of rod ends, radius rods, and specialty products to keep your equipment moving. Rod End Supply's experienced staff is ready and willing to help you with your needs. Their promise is to continue to provide a superior product with superior service so you can stay in front of the field no matter what it is. To learn more, go to rodendsupply.com.
Here at Specialty Sportswear, in-house, we do all of the screen printing, all the embroidery. We do some vinyl. The other add specialty items like your pens, magnets, notepads, calendars. You can actually buy that, build your business to make it larger. We have the largest screen printing process and the largest embroidery anywhere around in the area. We can do stuff all the way from your school clubs to sports teams, a professional look in the office. If you can imagine it, we can do it for you.
Rod End Supply is involved with a variety of motorsports as well as industrial applications with many different types of products. Since 1989, Rod End Supply has provided superior products priced competitively. Whether you're racing at the circle track or drag strip, rock climbing, or going off-road, Rod End Supply has an assortment of rod ends, radius rods, and specialty products to keep your equipment moving. Rod End Supply's experienced staff is ready and willing to help you with your needs. Their promise is to continue to provide a superior product with superior service so you can stay in front of the field no matter what it is. To learn more, go to rodendsupply.com.
Race fans, the National Sprint Car Hall of Fame and Museum is open 7 days a week, year-round, for you to come in and check out all of the wonderful race cars on display in the museum. And our online store at sprintcarstuff.com is open 24 hours a day for you to check out everything that we have in stock for sprint car fans. Whether it's for a birthday, anniversary, or Christmas, sprintcarstuff.com has it all. That's at the National Sprint Car Hall of Fame and Museum in Knoxville.
Rod End Supply is involved with a variety of motorsports as well as industrial applications with many different types of products. Since 1989, Rod End Supply has provided superior products priced competitively. Whether you're racing at the circle track or drag strip, rock climbing, or going off-road, Rod End Supply has an assortment of rod ends, radius rods, and specialty products to keep your equipment moving. Rod End Supply's experienced staff is ready and willing to help you with your needs. Their promise is to continue to provide a superior product with superior service so you can stay in front of the field no matter what it is. To learn more, go to rodendsupply.com.
When Steve died, the outpouring of love was amazing. These dollars had come together to support us, and we realized, no, we didn't want to use them for us. We wanted to use them to help others.
The foundation has done so much for so many people. It helps any family that has somebody, whether it be a crew member or one of the drivers, that get hurt. We can help them to get through the situation.
I was injured in a non-wing sprint car accident that broke my neck and left me with a spinal cord injury. I was in the hospital 8 months, and that got really, really expensive, so having that extra help to help push me and my family forward was a big deal.
Yes, Steve's death is the reason the foundation exists, but it's Steve's life, and it's the lives of racers everywhere, is the reason we're able to do the work we do.
Go harder, faster, stronger with Rod End Supply. Whether you are running industrial, farming equipment, or a race car, Rod End Supply has the assortment of rod ends, radius rods, and specialty products that will help you lead the field in performance. Our superior design means our rod ends last longer and perform better, giving you the edge on the track and saving you money. Contact Rod End Supply or order online today at rodendsupply.com. We don't just sell them, we race them. rodendsupply.com. Serving the racing community for over 30 years.
Hey everybody, this is Larry the Cable Guide. You are listening to RacingBoys.com, and if you're not, I swear to you, get in your truck or do something, but get the hell out of this country, because you don't belong in it if you don't listen to these fellas.
It's time for America's most unique motorsports show, Track Talk, brought to you by Rod End Supply and the Power Ride Midwest Lightning Sprints. Here are the Racing Boys, Scott Traylor and Kirk Elliott.
Welcome to Hour 2 of Track Talk. I'm Kirk Elliott. Scott Traylor, we lost his feed from Eldora Speedway, and Todd, this is the very reason I decided to drive back to Kansas City for that.
I knew that was going to be your
if
next.
If both of us were out there, we'd be in real trouble. You'd be hosting the show by yourself right now.
I'd be back here going, okay, we're going to play some interviews, and I'm going to pretend to know what I'm talking about. And
oh my gosh, I don't know.
Play the 3 interviews. That's
they had some. He said it was raining really hard out there.
Real hard.
And what I'm thinking is that generator's in the back of his truck, and I hope it's covered up, didn't get wet.
Well, that
Something happened,
I was starting to think.
He's in the campgrounds across the highway from Eldora Speedway, and there's no hookups at Eldora Speedway. You got to run off the generator, and he had it sitting in the back of the truck.
Yep.
And I'm hoping something didn't get wet or something happened there. So
he
might have run out of power.
That's what I was saying. He might have ran out of power,
yeah.
And he may be out there scrambling as we speak, and that's why he's
got more important things on his plate right now if that happened.
Because we tried to call and we tried to text, and I saw him get up during the break, but then
like something happened.
And then literally when I look back, I made sure we got our break going. I look back and his feed was gone. So
yeah,
and we didn't lose our Skype. I thought maybe it might be our neighborhood because when I went outside between the breaks, Kirk, there were power trucks driving around the neighborhood.
Yeah,
they're working. You can hear them outside working. So I thought,
well, he might have lost power out there.
That's what I'm thinking. I thought maybe it was us. But
he said it was raining hard, and I'm looking at this forecast at Eldora.
Yeah, it's not,
and it's not looking
friendly.
Not looking good. The rain is not supposed to clear out until early this evening.
Yeah, I mean, maybe they could get lucky and the storms move fast because what happened here last night, they thought it was going to linger longer than it did. It did move through a little quicker than what they thought.
Well, you know, when I run into it was Columbia.
I was getting ready to ask you, when I called you.
It was sun shining in St. Louis. I stopped in at Tri-City Speedway to kind of take a look. It was right along the way.
That's
and
when
so
you
I
called
wheeled
me,
in there,
right?
and they were all ready to go racing last night. And the sun was out. And then I drive to Columbia, which is 2 hours away from St. Louis, and that's when I first ran into it.
I told Jennifer, I was looking at the map, and I told her, I said, I'm supposed to call Kirk when I find out where the bad stuff is. And I said, I think it's probably going to be right outside of Columbia or Sweet Springs. I don't know. I'm looking on the map, trying to figure out where we were going to be at. And
I didn't run into it for very long because
that's what
the sun was out. By the time I got to Odessa, where I-70 Speedway is, you could see the sun coming through.
Yeah, I think,
and it was right in your eyes as you were driving down the highway.
Yeah,
and you could see that we were on the back end of it at that time. So I didn't run into any really bad weather getting back. But I was on the lookout for it based on what you were telling me, what had occurred already later in the afternoon.
When you called me, I said, man, we're in the midst of everything. I mean, I'd pulled, matter of fact, Kirk, I had pulled my car. I had my wife put her car inside. I've got my Mustang in. But I'd pulled my car up against the side of the garage just to protect, half of the car or partial part of the car if the wind was, because they were calling for hail. The hail was... Johnny Rollins was shooting video, Kirk, but he was miles away because of how much hail they were getting.
Yeah.
He couldn't get his helicopter where he was at, so he was actually shooting very far away yesterday. But, man, I tell you what, when I rolled into here this morning, Kirk, coming from the east side, coming down Floral, coming down, boy, it looked like a war zone came through here.
God, I hope Scott's okay out there, because I know how it's all set up out there. I spent 3 nights in that RV. And the generator was sitting in the back of a truck, and I'm not sure if he had it covered, or I hope so.
Maybe somebody came by and took it. Well, right in the middle of his show.
No, nobody would do
I'm just kidding.
I don't think so.
But yeah, like you said, we put a text into Kirk, into Scott, but we've got plenty of interviews. We're going to play all these interviews today, and then, like you said, we even got a really good interview with Trenton Berry. All of these interviews, episode 271, guys. And they're all very much they're way longer than what we're playing today. Just trust me on that. You guys could download that 2 hours and have a good show tomorrow. You guys could listen to that while you're out drinking your coffee in the morning.
So we'll get to the first one now.
Yeah.
Brian Brown. He's had a good week at Eldora. Finished 6th in the Eldora Million on Thursday night. And he was running around the 10th spot, just outside the top 10 last night for the night before the King's Royal.
And I can
night.
I can play the whole thing, Kirk, since we don't have Scott, so you shouldn't have to worry about the audio.
Or if he rejoins us right in the middle.
Well,
of it.
that's true too. Yeah, that's true.
Why don't I just play the audio from here?
Yep, that'd be fine.
And so let's go to a portion of the rather long interview that we had with Brian Brown on Monday at Mostly Motorsports. And first of all, Scott, he brings this up every time we get Brian on, that he thinks he's going to chase down his uncle Danny Lasowski for the all-time wins crown at Knoxville Raceway. And I keep saying that Brian, it's taken him this long to get to 64 wins, and he's got to win 48 more just to tie his uncle Danny.
Scott Key pushes that rock.
Is that really possible, do you think, Todd, for that to happen? I don't. Even Brian is a little bit skeptical.
Here's what's funny. You hear Scott, he's still trying to convince Brian, and I think maybe one day he might convince Brian by the mount.
So anyway, let's hear a portion of the interview with Blackjack Brian Brown from Monday's Mostly Motorsports show before he made the trip out to Eldora Speedway.
Oh, sorry.
I went on a big rant here at the start of the show, and I said that you're going to catch Danny Lasowski when it comes to the all-time wins. Do you feel like you've got enough speed? You're going to race probably 4 or 5 more years, right?
Mike's killed.
That's enough time to kind of close the gap on Danny a little bit. Do you feel like that? Do you feel like you have that kind of feeling that there's a possibility that you could catch him?
Who knows? I mean, I obviously just, as much as it's awesome, to keep racking up wins, but man, really just importantly, just worry about the next one. And this sport, we've been lucky enough to win 64, but nothing is guaranteed in the future. We had good cars there. We've had some good luck, but things change. So I don't see myself catching them just because I just, that's a number that's a high number, and we're still 50 or some behind. So whatever it is,
48. You're 48 behind.
Okay, well that's closer than I thought. But we'll see. Like I said, just want to try to win 65 in 2 weeks.
Right.
That's the goal. But as today, we after you win one and you debrief, you turn the page, and there's a lot on the line this weekend. Just try to focus on that, and when we get back to Knoxville, just go back there and do our job, and hopefully get win number 65.
It feels like to me, Brian, that you're better now than you were when you were younger, and it just seems like that your speed in your car right now is really, really good, man. You and Chad you're just clicking right now, right? Don't you feel like that?
I do. I feel like that in general. I feel like that, we can go out pretty much any time and qualify. We were out almost dead last at the Outlaw shows and qualified well this week, going out last or near last. And that's a huge part of it. Just sets your whole night up. And then I feel like in the heat races, we got a good package that we know works. And then the feature, we got a couple of different plays we can run depending on what the track conditions are. If it's got grip or it doesn't got grip, or it gets slick or gets real slick. We have some plays in the playbook. And I just told them this morning, we were talking about some stuff, and I just said, that I kept using the word disciplined. Got to stay disciplined, and we have to stay disciplined. And it's like, that car, we are only going to get the car so good.
Right.
And then obviously it's up to me. There's no such thing as a perfect car. We can get it pretty close, but then I got to make good decisions on the starts and the restarts and in traffic and at racing guys and things like that. So we just got to stay disciplined as a team, from the time we get up in the morning till we go to bed and we're working on these things. Stay disciplined. Don't get cute with it. Don't try to reinvent the wheel. Just stay disciplined, especially for this next month, every single night. And stay disciplined with my workouts. Stay disciplined with how I'm preparing, watching videos and things like that. But overall, to answer your question, I do feel like I'm a better driver now than I was 5 years ago. And you should be. If you're getting worse, it's time to do something different. And I mean, you have to learn your craft, and you have to get better. And, there's a lot more technology today than we had 10 years ago. There's all the pay-per-view, all the videos we can watch and things like that you should be using as a tool. And if you're not, you're behind, because there are guys that are using it as a tool. And, they're watching and they're paying attention. And you watch guys when we go out to qualify, there's guys that keep dirt vision. I'm one of them, keep dirt vision in the car with me or flow.
Right.
And watch up until 2 cars before I qualify and hand my phone off. So it's like, it's so hard right now. You better use every tool you have in your tool belt at all times, or you're going to get behind. I think this excitement will probably top anything we've ever been a part of in our sport. Saturday night of the Knoxville Nationals, there's a lot of electricity in the air, and you can just feel it from the time that, you can feel the crowd. And when the national anthem goes off, I mean, you can just feel the electricity in the air. But that electricity, then they go into a D main, a C main, a B main, and then the electricity kind of comes back for the A main, B main and the A main.
Yeah.
This here, it's when you roll in there at 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and you get to the driver's meeting, and you get, it's going to be ramped up. I mean, electricity is going to be in the air immediately all night long. And one mistake, one bad corner, one bad lap, you put yourself out of position. So I think the thing about it is we've been in enough pressure-packed situations in our career with the Knoxville Nationals that it is what it is at this point. Either you're going to be good enough or you're not. Putting pressure on yourself to run well is not never going to work out. Probably I've tried to do that before at the Knoxville Nationals, and I haven't won it yet. So
yeah,
you're almost the guy that won the Indy 500 this year was Joseph Newgarden. Is that who it was?
Yes. Right. Yep.
I read an article that I don't know if it was on something, but I read an article that he had come so close so many times to winning the Indy 500, and he would leave there every year and just be in a bad spot, miserable, just hating life because he wanted to win the race so bad. He kind of put it in a different spot of he told himself, I'm probably never going to win this race. And I'd just be happy to be a part of it. And he said it just changes kind of his mentality going into that whole week of like, hey, it's okay if you don't win this race. Your life is not. You're still a great race car driver. You still have a lot of accolades that people are always going to remember. You don't have to win that race.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of where I'm at is like, I want to win the Knoxville Nationals more than anything in the whole entire world. I'd trade all 64 wins for that one win. But if it doesn't happen, does not mean I'm not a good race car driver or whatever. There's a lot of great race car drivers that have never won that race.
Right.
So that's kind of my mentality is like just go in there, do the best we can, and if that's good enough and you win it one day, that's fine. If not, it's just life's going to go on. There's more important things in life than racing, and I think we get so involved in it that you think race, win, Knoxville Nationals, and I think you just got to kind of start separating those things as you get older. Like I said, where I was 5 years ago, if I didn't win the Knoxville Nationals, it was the worst year of my life. That's how I felt.
Right. Yeah.
And I just don't feel like that's got me in a good spot. And like I said, it's I could win every race up until the Knoxville Nationals, and I could have a flat tire on my qualifying night. So it kind of when it all lines up with the racing gods for you to have that perfect week and you to win that race, it's going to happen.
Right.
If it doesn't, it's not going to happen.
It was so funny. My next question was going to be, what would you rather win this weekend at Eldora or the Knoxville Nationals? And you said the Knoxville Nationals is the most important thing to you, right?
Absolutely. I mean, I would, like I said, I think we've won over 200 races in our life. I would trade them all. I mean, I mean that 100%.
Mm-hmm.
Does not mean I want to win this week. I 1,000% want to win this week.
No doubt.
The most important race of our season is Wednesday. Next, the most important race is Thursday night. So,
yeah.
But if you line them up one by one and said, okay, Brian, here you go. You can pick. You want the Eldora Million or the Knoxville Nationals? I'd pick the Knoxville Nationals every day of the week and twice on Sundays.
That is Brian Brown, who finished 6th in the Eldora Million on Thursday night. Last night, he finishes just a little bit outside. He started 12th, ended up 11th in last night's Night Before the Kings Royal, having a great week. I think Brian is having a great week at Eldora Speedway.
Having a pretty good week, period.
That's on his bucket list to win. He won at Williams Grove last year,
Yes.
which is another iconic track in sprint car racing, and he'd like to check Eldora Speedway off his bucket list. I wouldn't count him out for the Kings Royal tonight. I think he's got a shot at it.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, anytime you can lead an A main like he did the other night in that second prelim on Wednesday night,
Mm-hmm.
he was running up front, running the top 5, you got a shot at it.
Brian's got his team's firing on all cylinders.
They are.
And
I think he looks about as good as he has in many years going into the Knoxville
Absolutely.
Nationals next year. He's finished second a number of times up there. And the way he ran when the World of Outlaws were up there here about a month ago, he's going to be a player for the Nationals. The biggest thing about Brian Brown, he's got to get a good qualifying run. Last year, he had a poor qualifying run in time trials, and that put him behind the 8 ball the rest of the week. He's got to time in well, and if he can do that, get himself in a good position to start up towards the front of the Saturday night A main at the Knoxville Nationals, I think he's got as good a shot as anybody because, in my opinion, nobody knows how to get around Knoxville's raceway better than Brian Brown.
Well, like Brian said in that interview, that's it. This is his place, man. It doesn't mean as much to kids from California and other parts of the country as it does from somebody from the Midwest. When you win at Knoxville, you win the Knoxville Nationals. That, like you said, that's be his crowning achievement. I mean, like he says, that $1 million would have been great It'd been an awesome win.
He wants that Knoxville
But
Nationals
he
crown.
wants that Knoxville
Yeah.
Nationals crown, and like you said, this year he's got a better chance at it than any year that I've ever been with you guys at Racing Boys. I mean, he's stronger. His mindset seems to be in a place to where he's getting it. You know what I mean?
He knows how to finish second at the Nationals.
Yeah, so
he's done that a few times.
And he even says during that, it's about qualifying. If you can
Yeah.
get qualified well, it makes all the difference in the world.
Well, it's like Austin McCarl last year. He qualified for the pole
Absolutely.
last year, and everybody was talking about Austin McCarl last year. So if you get a good night for your either wins, I think he runs on Thursday nights every year at Knoxville. So he's got to get off to a good start by timing in well. And that'll set you up for the rest of the week because they do points.
Absolutely, yeah, it's different.
Just like they did this Eldora Million. It's a much different format,
Yeah.
but it's all about every lap matters.
Yeah, that's what I say. There's nothing is just throwing out there and let's
Yeah.
shake the car off. It's
You got to get yourself up where you start up towards the front.
That's
These
right.
races because the competition is so stiff.
Well, like you said, you're just like this race the other day. You got 80-some cars out there
Yeah.
for $1 million. You're going to have some stiff competition in the top 10. There's no doubt about it. So,
How about Carson Macedo? He gets involved in this horrific accident at Knoxville
just
back in early June. His
his-
car catches on fire after he smacks the turn 3 wall and went for about as frightening an accident as I've ever seen.
his mental makeup is
Right.
unbelievable.
He had burns on the back of his neck. He had broken ribs. He wasn't 100% up until here just about a week or two ago. But he had a fast race car. And the night he crashed, he had a fast car.
Yep.
I mean,
He sure did.
he was running them down. At the end of that, I think David Gravel ended up winning that night. But Carson Macedo had maybe the fastest car on the racetrack when something broke on the front of that car, hit the wall, and
Just engulfed.
I think he almost lost his life
Yeah.
there because he was stuck in the car. The car was on fire. It was chaotic trying to get him out. He gets out of the car, walks to the ambulance, and spends the night in the hospital at Knoxville and released the next morning with broken ribs and burns on his neck. And he was not 100%. He admitted that.
Yeah, he's probably still not 100%. Even now, at this minute, you can't be the same going into that as you coming out of it. I don't care who you are. You're not the same. So he's for him to do what he's doing, that's amazing, Kirk.
But last Saturday night, he won at Wilmot in
Just
Wisconsin.
Amazing.
And since that time, he's not been outside the top 2. He won at Wilmot last Saturday night. Preliminary race on Wednesday night for the Eldora Million, a second. A second place in the Eldora Million race.
A lot of money, too.
$100,000 there.
$100,000.
And then last night, he holds off Brad Sweet to win. So he's finished no worse than second in his last 4 starts. Carson Macedo, he's my pick to win the Kings Royal.
Yeah, absolutely. Why wouldn't you? I mean, luck needs to be on somebody's side. This guy here, I mean, to survive. We watched that wreck, and we don't play it on our show as much. I don't like even playing that kind of video. But oh my gosh, to come out of that, Kirk, and to jump back into a car, your mindset. He's got the mindset of a champion, obviously, because that's a hard thing to do, to be able to. I don't know. Fire's the worst thing. We've talked about it. You guys all talk about it. I'm not a race car driver, but fire is the thing that everybody worries about. So, yep, good on him, man. That was amazing, and I'd love to have him on Mostly Motorsports and talk to him because
we'll get him on here the next couple.
We've had him on before, but we'd love to have him back on now that the smoke is cleared and everything is good to go, so to speak.
Well, Chase Rodman is the guy we have on Mostly Motorsports every week. He is a pit reporter for Dirt Vision's coverage of the NOS Energy Drink World of Outlaws series. He was in action last night working the pits with Blake Anderson at Eldora Speedway last night when Carson Macedo won the race. We had Chase Randall, as we do on every Monday. This past Monday, Chase talks about Carson Macedo's win at Wilmot and a little bit about Eldora Speedway. Let's listen to a portion of the weekly interview we had with Chase Rodman.
other night, Carson Macedo wins at Wilmot. But were a lot of people pulling for Bill Baylog to pick up that win?
Oh, yeah, the crowd was going crazy. I was watching him under green when he made the pass on Donnie when he got the second there, and people in the crowd were going absolutely crazy. They were going crazy in qualifying when he set that track record. They were pumped up when we announced him for the dash draw. Obviously, that's right in his country. That's where all of his fans are at, and he's won 20-something races there with IRA. So, yeah, people were loving that, and I was really hoping to see him pull it off, but I think he's got a little bit too excited there at the end.
He did. He just got a little juiced up a little bit too much there at the end of the race, didn't he? And he ended up running 8th. And I'm sure he's disappointed with that because he had a car that was capable of winning that race, I thought.
Oh, yeah, I think at one point in time he was the best car on the track, and he it was kind of it's been a weird year for him. I was looking at his stats in the first 12 or so races. He ran with, Outlaws, High Limit, All-Stars, even IRA, and he had no top 10s for the first 12 races. And all of a sudden, he's turned it around here. He got 2 quick times in 2 weekends with the Outlaws, which he's never even gotten a quick time before these last 2 weekends. So it looks like they've turned that program around here pretty quickly.
The run that Carson Macedo had after that horrific crash at Knoxville here just a few weeks ago was a big moment. And Scott thinks I was being a little overdramatic when he nearly lost his life at Knoxville. But
he didn't nearly lose his life. He didn't nearly lose his life, Kirk.
For him to come back that quickly and get himself back to victory lane, that was a big moment.
Absolutely, a huge moment. He, up until Wilmot, he hadn't ran on the podium or obviously hadn't won a race since that wreck. So he was telling me the other night prior to Hot Laps that, he felt about 85 to 90% back to, full strength. He told me that at Beaver Dam, the race after Knoxville, he was about 5%. So he's come a long way over the last couple of weeks, and it's good to see him, get back to victory lane. I feel like we see guys that have really, really bad wrecks, and sometimes they're just never the same, So
Right.
It's great to see him back on top.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Let's talk about the Million this weekend, man. This is going to be one of the great races of all time, isn't it? This weekend.
Oh yeah, we are all excited here. We got our tickets, and we're going to go grab some lawn chairs and whatnot here soon, and hopefully we can find a spot. I know it's going to be absolutely jam-packed, but yeah, it is. The hype is real. We're all super excited. I'm excited to just be a fan and be able to witness it, not have to work and just kind of sit back, relax, and watch a good race. So
yeah.
It's going to be a groundbreaking, night for sprint car racing. I feel like all eyes in the racing world, with NASCAR included, are going to be watching and
yeah.
seeing who wins.
First things first, the Brad Doty Classic tomorrow night at Attica Raceway. That's going to be a big show.
It always is. We always seem to get about 50-ish cars for that race. Everybody wants to. I think it still pays just regular $10,000 to win, but it's still the Brad Doty Classic. Brad Doty, obviously a historic figure in sprint car racing, a big advocate for sprint car racing still here in 2023. So a lot of guys just want to win that just because of it's the name behind it.
Yeah, we just had Blackjack Brian Brown on the show, and he was talking about. He thought that there was 15 cars that could win this race, and he said probably another 10 cars could maybe luck into winning this race. What are your thoughts on that?
I think that's pretty close. And I like that he added the 10 that could luck into it. With the format that they've got going on, if somebody hits the setup just right and they can, get themselves in a good position. Then I think that they can maybe hang on. If they catch a caution or if a couple guys up front get into a wreck or something, and they're right there running, 5th, 6th, 7th or something, I definitely think it could happen. Obviously, the odds of it probably aren't too good. I think that there's legitimately 5 to 7 guys right now that are obviously the favorites, but there's 15 that if they can get the setup and have everything go the right way, then I think they could definitely have a chance.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So David Gravel was 4 points behind. He's dropped now down to 12 points behind. He's still not out of this thing, though, right?
No, he's still got plenty of time to make something happen. Carson's obviously not out of it either. I think he's, 50 or so maybe back
50.
at this point.
Yeah, 50.
Yeah, 50. So plenty of time. Obviously, he's really good at Attica. So, I mean, David, Brad, and Carson are all good at Attica. So they're probably all going to be right there in the top 5. And that's just kind of what it seems like it always is these days. It's those 3 guys are right up there, top 5, top 6 every single night. So Attica always puts on a great show. I think it's an underrated track that we go to throughout the year. So excited to get there. I just love going to races that have a large field of cars. And I feel like the Attica locals even have a pretty good shot at winning there, which makes me excited when we show up somewhere and you kind of just don't know who's going to win.
Well, we've seen some great races there already this year, the All-Stars and World of Outlaws. That is a great racetrack. It
absolutely is, especially when they can, keep the dust down a little bit for the fans that are, in the grandstands. So, and it's a tricky place, especially off of turn 2. It seems like there's not really much of a cushion for the guys to lean on. It's more like a little bit of a grip lane, I guess you could say, and then you get guys putting around the tires. So it's just one of those classic Ohio slick and dusty racetracks, and a lot of throttle controls needed, and that's why I think we see some of these guys that can get themselves up to the front. Those guys that are very, very methodical, very technical, and we see Donnie Schatz won there earlier this year. He's obviously a guy that's known for his throttle control, so I expect to see him have a good run.
He's got to feel a lot better about how he ran the other night, heading into Attica and Eldora this week.
I got to tell you, Chase, I was pulling for Donnie Schatz to win that race.
I think everybody at this point in time is pulling for Donnie when they see him running up front. I think gone are the days of people booing Donnie in victory lane. I think more it's cheers now. Because obviously he just hasn't been as dominant as he was, 5-6 years ago.
Right.
But that's what I've kind of noticed at the races now. Everybody cheers for Donnie when he wins instead of back in the day, everybody's booing him.
Yeah, no doubt.
Oh, by the way, there's a $175,000 to win race on Saturday night called the King's Royal. You're going to be back to work for those 2 nights. Friday and Saturday this weekend. That's still an important race too, isn't it?
Absolutely, and get to work with Blake Anderson down there in the pits as well on Dirt Vision, and then have Johnny and Sean Neestat from Houston will be up in the booth as well. So we got a pretty good cast of characters that'll be on the Dirt Vision broadcast. So that'll be fun, and I just love the pageantry of the King's Royal. I love that theme of the king, right, and like that the medieval times with the cape and the crown and all that stuff. I think it's really cool. It's my favorite event of the year, honestly.
Yes, sir. I wouldn't dispute that. Favorite event, the King's Royal Victory Lane, is unlike anything in the country, and you got Bobby Allen doing the honors tonight, crowning the king.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
And that will be, hopefully they get that in tonight. If not tonight, I guess it's tomorrow, right?
Yeah, might have to postpone it till tomorrow if the rain comes in.
$175,000 to win the King's Royal.
That's a lot of money, Kurt. Well, there's been a lot of money paid out in some racing here in the last few. You go all the way back to the beginning and the first race of the year at Lakeside Speedway, the biggest payday at that point.
$50,000 went to Giovanni Scelzi in the high limit race back in Lakeside.
It's been a lot of good paydays this year. We've interviewed a few drivers, and I can't remember, I think it was Danny. When we interviewed him, he said, I came along about 10 years too late, 15 years too late, because the big money's coming in now.
And he's a 4-time Knoxville National.
Absolutely. He's he said, the money's good. He goes, I'm just a little late to the party. For the big bucks, but it's a good money.
David Gravel wins at $250,000 at Houston Speedway here a few weeks back.
Big bucks, man. And like you said, good for them. Good for the guys getting payday every once in a while. Like you said, you can't see these monster paydays every year. It just can't be done. But to see this kind of payday going back to some guys, and like you said, Kirk, to some drivers that deserve it, that there's some drivers out there, as well as I do, that don't need the money.
I don't know of anybody that wasn't happy for Logan Schuart and the Shark Racing team for celebrating that victory lane the other night. Todd, was electric.
I saw quite a few pictures on social media, and it was pretty amazing.
That was I like to get up close to victory lanes. I
Yeah.
know you do too.
Yeah. There's a buzz.
that is one of the most memorable victory lanes I've ever seen. Was Thursday night at Eldora Speedway when Logan Schuart and his whole team up there celebrated that $1 million to win.
Well, when they celebrate $1 million to win at the NASCAR All-Star event, it's a big damn deal.
And Kyle Larson had his $1 million.
Yeah, and so that's what I'm saying. So you know it's a big celebration when
Yeah.
you get a sprint car team of that size.
It's not as big a deal in NASCAR,
No,
the Cup
but
Series,
they
as
still-
it is for this.
But you see the pit crews when they get that big bonus
Yeah.
and stuff, they're celebrating like it. And so this was a big win for Mr. Schuhart. I mean,
he said in that gathering the other night that he had with reporters that he gets half that.
Half.
And, as he said in that interview that we played in the first hour, I might not still believe it. I say, are you sure that's right? Are you sure?
So after the government gets his, he'll still have a pretty good chunk of change. I mean,
What about the guy who won the $101,000
Gosh
50-50
almighty.
drawing the other night? What
that changes a life.
what kind of celebration does
Let me
that
tell you
person
something.
have?
If that guy was just an average Joe, like you hope it went to, just an average guy that bought maybe 10 or 12 tickets and
Yeah.
happened to win, let me tell you something. That can be life-changing for that guy's coming home with 50,000, after taxes around 61,000, 58,000. That can be life-changing. That can set somebody, change the way that, if you're hurting, Kirk Elliott, that changes the whole way you look at life. I'm
The
telling
reaction of the crowd. I was in the crowd the other night when they announced the 50-50 drawing is up to $101,000.
Unbelievable. I remember being at I can't remember, was it the Royals playoff game, and that 50-50 number had gotten up. I can't remember what it was, and I thought to myself, I've never seen a 50-50 number that high at a baseball game before, in Kansas City. And I thought, boy, that would be life-changing to win that. I think it was 20-some thousand or 30-some thousand. But, yeah, that's a hell of a 50-50 ticket, my friend.
Yeah, I mean that's you're having as big a party as Logan Schuart and the Shark Racing team.
So what I would do is find the girl or the young man that sold me that ticket, and I would give her a little tip, because that's an awesome thing. That girl probably worked her butt off, or boy, walking up and down selling those 50-50 tickets all night in that heat.
They got actual stands set
Oh,
up
do they
around
really?
the track where you walk up
So
and
betting
buy
booths.
your tickets. And they also have people
Yeah.
walking the crowd selling the tickets
Well,
too.
I tell you what, that's an awesome experience for somebody at a local racetrack. That's a good reason for going to the track and not watching it at home right there. That you're not going to win any 50-50 sitting at the house watching it on the boob tube.
Well, you got a better chance of winning that than you do that $1 billion Powerball
Absolutely,
payoff.
yeah. You think everybody's going to stop and buy a ticket? Well, a lot of people
I mean,
will
it's still
tonight.
a slim chance, but I mean, you can
Well,
still do it.
like Brian Brown said, that chance of winning $1 million, you're not going to find any chances in the world with odds that good to pick up $1 million.
That's what after the day after Scott's walking the pits yesterday, and you hear these guys, I wish they'd spread that. Well, yeah, they're going to say that after
Yeah.
they didn't win the $1 million.
Exactly. Nobody's saying
All the complaining's going to happen after the fact, But
Exactly.
I've been around enough pit areas at racetracks that, there's always going to be a lot of complaining from a lot of people about a lot of different things.
Trust
That,
me. Next,
but my take is, who else is going to put up $1 million to win any race?
when you're retired and you're sitting there talking to your grandkids, you're going to say, man, I was in a race for $1 million once, Sonny, and I finished 7th, and I had a chance for you're not going to complain about, well, I only made this, or it cost me $90 to get in the backstage, or my ticket for my bills for my tires were this much. Like you said, you're going to remember that you were in $1 million race, man, and you can't change that. That's part of history now.
Yeah.
It's never. There's a reason why Kirk Elliott.
Everybody's going to remember forever who won that race on
Absolutely.
Thursday night.
Well, there's a reason why Kirk Elliott got in his car
why I was
and
there.
drove up there because that was $1 million
I
race.
wasn't going to miss that, Tom.
I knew you would.
I was not going to miss that.
Well, I just remember when we used to do our primetime live show. Me and Kirk Elliott used to host a primetime live show every Friday and Saturday night. We used to do 2 hours or 4 hours. The first year we did 4 full hours.
Yeah.
Which was I was in the closet for almost 10 hours on a weekend working down there. But when you guys had the Kings Royal, when we watched that Kings Royal the last year and primetime live and got to watch the crowning and everything, we played a little.
Had the throne and
the throne.
Put
That's
the cape on, the crown,
cool stuff,
and the whole
man.
deal.
It's a cool experience.
Was that when Brad Sweet won?
That was when Brad Sweet won. Yep, and it was like
he's got 2 up.
Is that right?
Yeah.
So, and let me tell you something. That's a really cool experience, and like you said, those are the things that you remember.
Yeah.
Down the line, and you don't remember how much it cost to race and stuff. That's a cool experience, man. And if you're on the podium on an event like that, that's just amazing to
Well, I
see.
remember 20 years ago, I went to Eldora Speedway for that Mopar Million non-wing race, and that was just $1 million purse. It paid $200,000 to win, and Jack Hodenshield won that race. And 20 years later, I still remember being there that night,
And he
watching
does-
that,
and
and that
he-
was $200,000 to win.
And he's still talking about it because that's a big that's a big race.
But
so.
people will be talking about
Yeah.
Logan Schuart's win forever.
Yeah, no. Well, think about this. That's a Guinness Book of World Record. That's the highest paying sprint car payout ever.
When
right?
Donnie Moran won that $1 million at Eldora Speedway in 2001, he got the nickname the $1 Million Man,
That's
Donnie
right.
Moran. They call him the $1 Million Man, Donnie Moran. And that's his nickname. They still call him that.
And like you said, Logan he'll have this moniker. They'll pin something on him, and that will be for wherever he goes on in a racetrack. He'll ever be known as the guy that won the big one, my friend.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's the guy.
And
I'm just glad he won, Kirk, instead of nothing against
I got
Larson.
nothing against Kyle Larson.
I don't either.
But he was already a millionaire.
Yeah, that guy, like you said, no, I'm glad who won. I'll just put it at that. And
I really don't care who wins these races,
neither.
but it really is exciting to see somebody like Logan
Absolutely.
Schuart, who's won some races, but nothing in a crown jewel category.
Life changing.
It'll change his life.
It's
There's
gonna,
no
man.
doubt about
Like
it.
you said, and we're lucky enough to get him on Monday morning for
Yeah.
Mostly Motorsports. It brought to you by Rod End Supply. It's going to be a great.
He's a great guy, too.
He always
We
is.
talked
Every
to
time
him.
we've ever talked to him,
Yeah.
I just can't imagine. Like you said, maybe by Monday, a little bit of this will more set in on him a little
It'll
bit.
be interesting to hear what he thinks about it.
Absolutely.
That many days out.
And then who knows if this dude wins this King's Royal? I mean, I know the million's huge, but man, think about that. I mean, all the prestige and everything that goes into the King. This could be a weekend that changes. This could be a week that changes his whole life.
Brent Marks walked out of there with almost $300,000 for winning both the historical
Yeah, I
Big
remember
One
that. That's
and the
right.
King's Royal in the same weekend a year ago.
Let me tell you something. That's just real money, guys. That's
Yeah.
not just that's real type of cash,
So
man.
Logan Schuart can definitely pull this off.
Yeah,
I'm picking Carson Macedo to win it just based on just how well he has run.
And who else?
here
I mean,
over
that
the last-
and couldn't go to another nicer guy that deserves a win like that after everything. But you're right. I want to see one of these type of teams pick up that kind of a win. I mean, heck, we've like you said, following the ASCS tour like we did, and you get to know these teams, like you do. The big boys are the big boys. They fly in, they do their deal. They got their big. They come out when it's time to race. I like watching these guys, man, and to know that a guy like him or
Well, especially because when they first started out racing with World of Outlaws, they struggled.
They did. No,
he
they-
and Jacob Allen.
That's right.
They struggled big time.
So to be on the other end of the spectrum and looking at it like this,
Well, they paid their dues.
Absolutely.
And that's what you like to see. It's not like they just waltzed in here, had all this money, and no, they're not working off a big-time budget.
Absolutely.
He talked about his engine guy
Yeah.
the other night. He's not one of the top engine builders in the country.
In-house.
But he's hands-on, and he works with a lot less than some other
Absolutely.
engine builders out there. And he's got a team of guys. Got his grandpa, the legendary Bobby Allen, there. And, these guys are not really that high budget.
That
But they go out there, they make it work, and these guys have both he and Jacob Allen have developed into really great race car drivers. And I remember last year at the Nationals, both of them did well on preliminary
Yeah.
night. They had fast race cars up there.
Well, maybe by Monday he can check his telephone during our show, and he can actually look and see if that check has made it into the bank by Monday.
By then he'll believe it. Well, it'll all sink in by then. That's
right.
for sure. And
That's
I'm
for
sure he
sure.
was probably still celebrating
Oh,
last
I
night.
goddamn guarantee. I
Yeah.
guarantee.
He
you.
didn't run as well last night as he did the night before, but he's still got a smile on his
No,
face.
he was riding around there. He was probably pulling dirt out of his teeth because he couldn't keep his mouth. He couldn't keep a smile
Well,
off
not
his
very
face.
often a big race like that. It's on a Thursday night. For
Actually,
instance.
the turnaround
those
like
are
that.
on Saturday
That's
nights,
right.
and then you turn around and you race again the next night
No, like you
at
said,
the same track.
He was picking dirt out of that teeth all night because he had a smile driving around back here behind those cars with the.
Well, I asked him, "Have you had any sleep?" He said, "No,
No,
I hadn't slept
3
in 3
days.
days," and he certainly didn't sleep after winning that race on
No.
Thursday night. So it's like 4 days of not sleeping.
I'm sure today is the crash. Yesterday was the crash day.
Now
for
that
him.
it's raining,
yeah, he's
he can
crashed.
sleep in.
Open,
Yeah.
crack that window open a little bit. Listen to the raindrops. And
He'll get some sleep today.
That's right. Absolutely.
So anyway, well, listen, USMTS is in action up in Ogilvie, Minnesota this weekend, and I was looking for results from last night. We're supposed to run a double header after Thursday night got rained out, and I haven't got the results in yet. So when we do, we'll get that posted. I don't know if they had any weather issues up at Ogilvie Raceway last night, but they were supposed to run a double program last night, and I can't find the results. So I'm not sure if they even got it in. So we'll check on that. But Trenton Berry is a weekly guest. He and Stick Boy run RacingDirt.com, and they cover all of the live events for the United States Modified Touring Series as well as the ASCS National Tour. They carry, and that got rained out last night. So earlier on Monday, we spoke with Trenton Berry, as we do every week, and here's a little bit of that weekly chat we had with Trenton Berry.
And Matt Covington picks up the win with the Steve King Memorial. And Jason Martin, he picked up night number 1. Trenton, how you doing, buddy?
Yeah, great. I'm glad to be with you guys. I thought probably the move of the weekend was Martin's pass for the lead and what turned out to be the pass for the win there on Friday night out there at Dodge City. That was quite the move by big time racers. So
what do you think?
I'm doing well.
What do you think about that racetrack out there?
So I didn't make the trip, but we stream out there weekly and had a chance to watch a bunch of races. So seems like a really nice place. I know their organization is a little bit different there than a lot of racetracks. So that's cool for them. I know they don't deal with quite as many financial stresses as a lot of other promoters and places do. So it's cool to see it out there. It's kind of in an area that I know there's other racetracks around it, but it's a big time facility for sure.
Yep.
It's city owned, right?
Yes, what I've been told. Yeah, and it's subsidized through the city, correct? So,
yeah,
they don't have quite as many obstacles as a lot of these other places do.
Right.
And it's whatever, neither here nor there. It's just the way it is. So,
yeah.
But cool to see it there.
Hey, Trenton, what's going on with USMTS? I know they got a big race coming up, the Mod Wars. We'll talk about that race.
Yeah, 3, 5, and 11, and we're right at the halfway point of the series. So there's 21 races done and 22 nights to go. So we'll cross over that threshold here at the midway point of the season, and we're talking about big time places. Ogilvie Raceway is a big time facility. They just had the World Outlaw Sprint Cars there just a few weeks ago, and packed the place. I talked to Clayton Wagaman. His family owns it. He's one of the mod racers that's going to contend for the win this weekend. Said they had to set the record for the place for their World Outlaws show that they just had. So it's really, really cool. Up north of Minneapolis, Minnesota. It's from my house here. It's about 9.5 hours to get there. But this is definitely a good time of the year to be heading to central Minnesota.
Yeah.
So,
I think Chase Rodman, who we just had on, said that was one of the nicest facilities he'd ever been to.
It's unbelievable. It is unreal. So they have what's so cool there. They built a huge structure right behind the main grandstands, and so it's awesome because it's one way in. It's a dining area. It's a souvenir area. It's a concession stand. It's a pass through to the grandstands. It's AC if you need somewhere to chill out. Restrooms are in there. You go up the stairs. They have all their suites. Their suites are all accessed indoors. Their officials scoring box is right there amongst the suites. And at the end of it, you have a VIP and a bar. That bar has a door on the turn one side of it that allows you to access a VIP fan zone and a concrete walkway with stairs that will take you up and down. It is an unreal structure that they have put at Ogilvie, and the finish work's so beautiful. It's all sheet metal inside, downstairs, the best I can recall, and upstairs it's all wooden, kind of like a log cabin type feel on the inside on the second level. It's a beautiful place. It's a great racetrack. It's in an awesome part of the country, and just like I tell you guys about when we go to these races up north, man, the fans just come out in droves to support the racing, and it's really cool. So
yeah,
this is another big one right on the heels of Cedar Lake here a few weeks ago. So this is another one of the huge ones on the stop for the USMTS this year.
Yeah, Trenton, you know Deer Creek Speedway very well. They had a big late model show up there this past weekend. Do you know where the scoring loop is buried at Deer Creek Speedway?
Yeah, it's the second E on the wall. If you're looking at Deer Creek Speedway.
Hey, did you
the flag stand? So yeah,
it's not right at the flag stand though, is it?
No, it's before. So, and the way those scoring loops go too, I was kind of ignorant to this. You guys probably understood this better than me. But so when we ran that first USMTS race at Dallas County, there was no scoring loop at the racetrack. So when Todd gets a racetrack that doesn't have one, he'll send a scoring loop in a few months ahead of time. I say a few months ahead of time. In our case, we had like 3 weeks, so he sent it immediately once the deal was made for the race to permanently install there for the racetrack. And so you have to get a trencher, and so that loop is essentially it's a semicircle is what it is, because it runs down from the wall, and then you just make a half circle with it, and you just run it straight back. And I think Todd said he liked his 18 inches apart, I believe, was what he wanted, was 1.5 feet on his scoring loop. And so once that transponder crosses, it's not actually when it hits the first part of that. It's when it crosses into that loop is when that transponder hits. So, there's always a little bit of discrepancy of where the actual start-finish line is. And the actual start-finish line at all these places that run these transponders is where they actually run the trencher and stick the loop that runs underneath there. And it's just like a cable is what it is. It's buried down below the racetrack there, I don't know, a foot or two or something like that. That's how these transponders work.
Yeah. The other night, Kirk and I were watching the race between Bobby Pierce and O'Neill, and we could have swore that O'Neill won that race because it showed in the instant replay that O'Neill was Bobby O'Neill was just ahead of Bobby Pierce at the line.
If you judge it at the flag stand.
But
that's not where you judge it, right? So
No, so if you look at some pictures from the infield back towards the flag stand, it's at the second E is where they've buried the scoring loop there at Deer Creek Speedway.
And that's what matters. You can't look at a photo finish and determine. They got to go by the scoring loop, do they not?
100%. If you're going to run your scoring loop for every other lap, it has to count for the last lap too. And the only reason that it wouldn't is if you look at your race cars and your transponders not mounted in the proper spot. If everybody's transponders are mounted in the same spot, it's the only way you can do it. Like if you're going to race transponders and you are only going to hand score as a backup in case your transponders fail, and your transponders do not fail, there is no debate and there is no discussion. This is an emotional debate. It is tied strictly in who people wanted to win, and it's a moot point. You're going to go by the transponder all the laps, but the last one, get out of here. Like I'm not listening to that.
Yeah, no, I agree.
If your
I agree with that.
Not if your transponders are mounted in the proper spot. The only time you deviate from that. So say that race happened right there, and they're supposed to have them on the left front frame rail on these dirt late models, and they were at the same spot. So you say, okay, well, Bobby had his mounted somewhere else, right? And if it would have been if Bobby's would have been not mounted in the proper spot, then you could have a conversation to, hey, maybe that's not his win. But if everybody's transponders are in the same spot, end of story.
And I'm told that they are mounted in the same spot towards the front of these cars.
Well, so they checked them. So they pulled the race cars and they looked at them. That was what, I mean, that was part of what they did before they determined, for finality and writing the check of who won the race. Was they had to stop and look at the transponders and make sure they were where they told them to be. So
and Bobby Pierce,
cool.
he was
That's
pretty
great.
confident
And
he had won the race. He threw his arm out the window. He was pretty certain he had won.
Yeah, Bobby Pierce definitely thought he won.
It kind of reminded me of a scenario, when you just watched the title fight that went all 12 rounds, and both guys put their hands up at the end like they've won before they had to go to the judges' scorecard for the decision. Kind of reminded me of an old classic boxing move that I used to see. It was definitely kind of funny. And honestly, I mean, the conversation should be how great of a racetrack Deer Creek Speedway is, not that people let their emotions run wild and think that the finish should have been different than what the transponders said. I mean, it's just how we race. So, no, there's nothing wrong. I mean, that was awesome, incredible.
Right.
That's going to probably come down as one of the contenders for race of the year.
Boy, those guys know how to prep a racetrack at Deer Creek. All 3 nights. I mean, it was just great racing all the way around.
Oh yeah. They do such a fantastic job, and so they got a new piece of equipment too, which is out, and it's not made its way south yet, but there's 4 or 5 racetracks that are working with it right now. So they call these Lele Roteras for years and years. It's been kind of the go-to thing for these racetracks, and they have these teeth that wear out, and they have gearboxes, and they have to run off these PTO shafts on these tractors. It takes a pretty big tractor to run them, obviously depending on what size of one that you have. So the folks up there at Deer Creek and the Sorensens have developed this, and Mike Sorensen's one of the co-owners there at Deer Creek, and it's the first place they broke this new tiller out, but it runs off a couple hydraulic cylinders, and it has teeth that cut into the racetrack, and they've tinkered with how to get enough weight on this thing to get it where you want it in the dirt. And anyway, the things that are the pluses with it, and what they're using there at Deer Creek, and they're using them Fountain City and Mason City. They're using them right now. These devices, they haven't really quite named what it is yet, but it's a replacement for this, and the parts are readily available. It doesn't have nearly as many parts that move. There's a lot less fail points. You can turn it about twice. You turn your racetrack about twice as fast. It doesn't require as big of a tractor. It's not going to burn as much diesel fuel. So it was really neat to see, because I know that at some point, and I wasn't locked in watching that race this weekend, but I know that at some point that thing was used on the racetrack, and it's cool to see the racing turn out that good with a piece of equipment that's brand new. And I really hope a lot of promoters, maybe there's some promoters listening to this right now, it's really a tool for your racetrack. You should really take a look at here in the next few years and think about incorporating into your show. At Fountain City, it's cut the track prep time in half. So
right.
To me, that was super cool to see that they had such a great race, knowing that piece of equipment was in action.
All right, that's Trenton Berry, RacingDirt.com, and we'll see if they get those races in at Ogilvie tonight. And again, I'm not sure exactly what occurred last night. Looking for the results, supposed to be in double mains at Ogilvie, but hopefully everything is a go tonight. The weather looks good around these parts anyway, better than Ohio. I think they're getting all of what we got.
Yeah, they are.
At Eldora Speedway, and it moved through Tri-City Speedway last night. I pulled into Tri-City Speedway, just right off the interstate right there, just to see what was going on, and the sun was shining. But then they got the time trials in, and then it rained, and they couldn't get the rest of it.
I knew once it started up again, there was no way that it just looked that Kirk, the amount of coverage that storm, it was already in Kansas City, and it was all the way out to Manhattan. It was just such a big swath across the map that I was thinking this thing's just going to continue on. It may break up here and there in a few
So
places.
did people get damaged? I know there were power outages all over the place.
Yeah,
but
so I seen, like I said, my daughter was at work, and they had to shelter in place because they had a warrant. They had an actual tornado warning
in Lawrence
out there. And I follow some Lawrence pages because my daughter on Facebook, and there are a lot of power still out there in Lawrence, Kirk. Like,
wow.
Still people saying we have nothing, like, at all.
Well, I'm glad the power came back
Yeah.
on here because it was out here in our studios
Absolutely.
for a time last night.
When Deidre called you and told you we had no.
Yeah.
Well, when I got here early, Kirk, like Kirk called me. We decided last night that we better make this an early.
The first good news was the power was on.
Yeah, we knew we had power.
The second bit of news that wasn't so good
No.
was one of our internet sources were out, which includes our phone lines.
And our phone line and the TV behind Kirk Elliott.
Yeah.
We have no TV, so I knew we were going to be in pretty decent shape, but Kirk Elliott made the right call by not, because originally Kirk was going to be out there with
Yeah.
Scott. They were going to ride together out there.
And then we just do our show. We just zoom in,
Zoom
and you
in.
can take care
Well,
of everything on this end, right?
Like you said, it'd have been old Todd.
That wouldn't have been good.
It'd have been Todd back here hosting it.
Because we lost Scott.
And we can't bring him on telephone. We have no telephone. It'd have been.
But we know he's still alive, right?
Yeah, we've got texts from him.
Yeah, all of a sudden we just lost the connection.
It was strange.
We still don't know what happened.
No, we'll wait till after the like you said, the show's over now, so we bared through it and made another show. Make sure you guys tune in to.
But that's got to be a mess out there in that campgrounds. The rain's coming down. Everybody's working. There's no hookups at Eldora Speedway. Okay,
I can't imagine.
Everybody's working off generators.
If they got the amount of water.
So
that
the
we
generator, something happened to the generator.
Yeah, well,
I'm
if
thinking.
they're under a complete storm like that, and you're getting so much water down there, like you said,
he had more important
he had
business
way
to take
more.
care of. If stuff was getting wet,
Yep, he had to cover
he
up.
needed to get out there and take care of that.
So he tried to call, but then he'd forgotten that we had no telephone number.
Yeah.
Working. So we just went ahead and let Scott finish what he's doing, and we'll get back with.
If both of us had been out there,
I'd have done the
you'd
show
just
and
shut it down.
I'd have played these 3 interviews, and we'd have been done already.
That'd been it.
Well, like you said, episode 272, Monday morning, guys. Tune in. Big winner of the $1 million race, along with Trent Berry and
Chase
Rodman as our usual guest. So hopefully Scott will have made it back into the studio
And
by
hopefully we see a King's Royal tonight.
then. Yeah, maybe we'll be talking to a $1 million winner and a King's Royal winner. That'd be something, right?
I think I'm heading out to Valley Speedway tonight. It's close to home. They got War non-wing sprint cars out at Valley Speedway, the Lawson Memorial. So I'm going to go out there and check that out. Lucas Oil Speedway is on for the Diamond Nationals.
Absolutely.
CHI Diamond Nationals going on at Lucas Oil Speedway, featuring the Lucas Oil Late Model Dirt Series. And then they're headed to Houston Speedway for the Silver Dollar Nationals at, if you remember last year, it was at I-80 Speedway. I was up there for that.
Wasn't it?
But I-80 is no more.
No more.
And so the Silver Dollar Nationals moving to Houston Speedway, and that's coming up next weekend. And I'm going to be in Iowa next weekend for the doubleheader IndyCar race at Iowa Speedway. They got a race on Saturday and another race on Sunday.
It's going to be pretty damn cool.
And mixed in a night at Knoxville next Saturday night.
You got your racing set up next week, Kirk.
Next weekend's all set up.
It's going to be good. So where are we doing the show from? How are we doing?
I am going to be here on Saturday, as always.
Yeah, as always.
I'm not sure
what Scott's going to do yet.
If Scott's going to be here. I imagine both of us will be here in studio next Saturday.
That'll be good. Yeah.
But I'm leaving to go to Iowa right after the show on Saturday.
Well, that was me and you both were planning on heading to Iowa. I was going for baseball and you were going, but I don't know if I'm going now. I think I might be dog setting and house setting this time.
Yeah.
I don't think I'll make this last trip. Zach's not playing every game now. He's been pitching a little more, Kirk. So.
I want to see him pitch.
Yeah,
I want to go to a game where he pitches.
He's been pretty lights out. Let me tell you something. He doesn't like to be a pitcher. He like you said, he'll do it because he's a good athlete.
Yeah.
When he writes out his bio, pitcher isn't the first thing he writes on the bio.
Yeah, but if you're a good pitcher,
but he's a pretty damn good
that's
pitcher.
Pretty valuable commodity.
Yeah. Well, he closed the game out yesterday, so he played the first game, right field. And then second game came in and played the last 3 innings and pitched the last 3 innings. Gave up 1 run on a double, a ground rule double. So it was like, and the guy was already on base. So,
yeah,
like you said, he had a pretty good game. He's doing some SATs or ACT today. Good luck with that today. And like you said, Monday morning, guys, we'll be talking about a big winner at the Kings Royal. That's what we're looking for.
We don't know who's going to win the Kings Royal yet. Hopefully it's tonight. If not tonight, I'm sure they'll run it
Hey,
tomorrow.
guys, I don't know if Kirk, have you heard about this new documentary? It's on Hulu about the quarterbacks.
No.
Really cool. I saw a preview. Our own quarterbacks featured
Patrick Mahomes
most prominently through the whole thing. Kirk Cousins and one other quarterback. But I think it's a 4-part series, if I'm not mistaken. It's on Hulu. It's getting gigantic reviews, major great reviews, Kirk. Everybody's saying this is a really cool behind the scenes. It shows stuff that you know. It's something. I think it's called Quarterbacks, maybe. I can't remember. But all you have to do is do a search on that, and it's on Hulu. And let me tell you, social media is blowing up on this thing with this new documentary.
Wow.
This is the new documentary, and it may be a series that they continue to do. And this series, like you said, they're covering these 3 quarterbacks with Patrick Mahomes.
That'll draw a lot of eyeballs.
Drawing
right
a
there.
lot of eyeballs. You know, he just won the ESPY as NFL player.
He won the ESPY.
He did.
How about that? Well, he should.
NFL Player of the Year, and like you said, we're still champions all the way up until training camp day.
That's right.
And then that's when it all starts over. So it was pretty good.
You're still champions until you're not.
That's right. Until you're the champs until you're not.
You'll find that out next February.
Absolutely. Well,
So-
like I said, I appreciate everybody, and be safe out there this weekend. If you're
Yes,
going to
sir.
some racing, have fun. Make sure you buy lots of T-shirts and hats from your drivers. They could always use a few extra hat and T-shirt sales. Let me tell you, that goes a long ways for these guys in the pits. So if you make your way to your pits, buy a hat, T-shirt this weekend.
I've never seen more merchandise on sale at a
Boy.
racetrack than what I saw this week.
They
in
knew,
Eldora.
didn't they? They knew, didn't they?
Oh, my.
You better have the merch if you're going to have that kind of crowd.
And they had it going on at Eldora Speedway. No doubt about it. Todd, thanks a lot. Appreciate
you.
it. Thank you for tuning in. For my partner, Scott Traylor, I'm Kirk Elliott. Join us on Monday for Mostly Motorsports at 12 noon Central Time. We'll stream it live on Facebook and YouTube, and we'll podcast the show as we always do. So we'll talk about the Kings Royal and the other races that are going on, Diamond Nationals and the midgets out in Fairbury, Nebraska this weekend will be the big topics of conversation. So we'll do that on Monday. And have a great weekend. I'm Kirk Elliott. Thanks for tuning in. We'll do this again next Saturday here on Track Talk.
Go harder, faster, stronger with Rod End Supply. Whether you are running industrial, farming equipment, or a race car, Rod End Supply has the assortment of rod ends, radius rods, and specialty products that will help you lead the field in performance. Our superior design means our rod ends last longer and perform better, giving you the edge on the track and saving you money. Contact Rod End Supply or order online today at rodendsupply.com. We don't just sell them, we race them. rodendsupply.com. Serving the racing community for over 30 years.